أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألم تروا أن الله سخر لكم ما في السماوات وما في الأرض وأسبغ عليكم نعمه ظاهرة وباطنة ومن الناس من يجادل في الله بغير علم ومن الناس من يجادل في الله بغير علم ولا هدى ولا كتاب منير. The verses that I have just recited, the translation is, have you not seen that Allah has constrained to your service whatever is in the heavens and whatever is in the earth, and poured out His favors to you, visible and hidden? Yet there are some among men who dispute concerning Allah, without knowledge or guidance, or the authority of an illuminating book. The topic that has been given to me is the Holy Quran as the source of social harmony and peace in the contemporary society that we live in today. This is a very vast topic that can be addressed in many different ways, and in fact has been addressed in those many different ways by the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, by the promised Messiah alayhi salam, and the Khulafa after him. And they have all presented the Holy Quran as the source of knowledge, the source of that enlightenment from which we can gain all sorts of peace and harmony. Whether that peace and harmony is with regards to our own individual life, our family life, extended to our co-workers and our colleagues, and then extended even further into society, and then beyond that on an international scale. There is a great book written by Hazrat Khalifatul Masih Rabi Rahimahullah Ta'ala entitled Islam's Response to Contemporary Issues, which deals with all these aspects of social issues and uses the Holy Quran as the guiding principle to finding the solution for the ills of society. I'll read from the introduction of that book. Hazur describes the various social issues of this contemporary society. He writes, "The single most important malady of the world today is the absence of peace. In the contemporary world, man as a whole has reached a high standard of achievement in material progress, made possible by advancements of science and technology in every sphere of human requirements at a mind-boggling pace. No doubt, the more fortunate sections of human society, known as the first and second world, have a much larger share of the fruits of scientific progress in contemporary age. But the third world has also benefited to a degree. Rays of progress have penetrated even the innermost recesses of the darkest areas where a section of human society still lives in the remote past. Nevertheless, man is not happy and content. There is growing restlessness, fear, premonition, lack of trust in the future, and dissatisfaction with one's heritage. These are some of the important elements which challenge the nature of the contemporary world. It, in turn, gives birth to a deep-seated dissatisfaction of man, either with his past or with his present, particularly it runs deep in the formative thought process of younger generations. Man is in search of peace. So he speaks of different aspects of social harmony and peace in this book, and he outlines the guidance that is given by the Quran in these 6 topics: interreligious peace and harmony, social peace in general, socio-economic peace, economic peace, peace in national and international politics, and individual peace. Speaking of all of these different aspects, he draws our attention to perhaps the most important aspect of this subject, which is what I will discuss in detail today. And that is that for any kind of peace, for any kind of harmony to be established, whether it's individual harmony, whether it's harmony in the home or in the society around you, or on a national and international scale, that peace and harmony, the source of that peace and harmony is Allah Almighty Himself. And the harmony will come from that recognition, the very recognition that we are nothing, whatever systems we have created are nothing, but everything is due to Allah alone. And this is what he brings everything down to. If we look at the systems that exist today, and over the history of mankind, especially in the last 100 years, we see that every system that has been created by man has led humanity further and further away from Allah Ta'ala. And though this may not be the fault of those systems themselves, but of man's own inclination to accept the importance of those systems more than their own individual relationship with God, nevertheless, these systems have played a role in man turning away from God. These systems we know, especially that have been predominant, the capitalist system. And Hazur talks about the vanity of capitalism in his book. Then the communist system. And we have all seen how in capitalist countries, especially those modeled after capitalism in the West, whether it's Europe or here in the United States or other places, that the rate of atheism has, among its citizens, has grown exponentially. We say that Islam is the fastest growing religion in the world, but those turning away from Allah Almighty, those turning away from the very concept of God, is far more. And then there's a large number also of those people who say that yes, we believe in some sort of creator or God, but we don't believe in any organized form of religion. And they too live in a state of flux, whatever that may be. But we see that the growing restlessness that Hazur talks about in society has increased along with this growing of people turning away from the concept of God or belief in God. The other system, communism, which the writers of communist and social thoughts have spoken of the religion itself being an opiate for mankind. And in many states where communism is practiced or was practiced, the very concept of having religion practiced in those states was forcibly denied. Then we have a new concept which is very modern and which many books are being written about today. The concept that morals or the knowledge of morals does not come from a supreme being, but that it is individual and based on one's own individual perceptions of morality and goodness. And we can see where this might cause problems, where one individual's morality may differ from another person's morality. So all of these philosophies, they have come to naught. And Hazur presents the only philosophy, the only system of understanding which can remove the social maladies of today, the problems, and bring about social harmony, is to return to the concept of the unity of God. And it is through this concept that we can understand our own place in society. Hazur speaks, Khalifah Masih Rabi Rahmullah speaks of this system with regards to the verse that I recited, as well as other verses of the Holy Quran, such as لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ. Surely we have created man in the best mold. Speaking of these verses, he says, many other verses, even small chapters of the Holy Quran, are devoted entirely to this subject, explaining that man is a micro-universe, which has received influence from all forms of creation. Even the remotest star has contributed to this micro-universe of man. But this relationship is not that of a servant to his master, but that of the master to his servant. The masters do not bow and prostrate before those who serve them. Man, therefore, emerges as the master of the whole universe and the servant of only the one who is Lord and creator of the universe. How different is this philosophy from that of many other religions or other philosophies, which teach not only idol worship, and this is a large, vast subject in itself with regards to what is idol worship, and the promised Messiah has discussed this in detail. How different is this philosophy from that of many other religions which teach not only idol worship but also nature worship in so many forms? In their philosophies, the moon, stars, and sun, oceans, trees, rain, lightning, thunderstorms, or even animals such as cows, snakes, and birds all appear in a way superior to man. Man is taught to worship them as gods by virtue of their superiority of some sorts over man. In short, man is placed at the lowest order of things and is made subservient to everything, which was only created to serve him. In the Islamic understanding, that of the Holy Quran, the Islamic understanding of the scheme of things, man is made master. In a manner of speaking of all creation, man therefore stands under the greatest obligation to the Creator, because it is he who has benefited most from the creation of God, who has constrained everything to the service of man. In other words, man is emancipated from all bondage by accepting only one bondage, and that of his Creator. Man is the personification and symbol of the consciousness of the entire universe. When he bows and prostrates before his Creator, he in him bows and prostrates to the whole of cosmos. When he returns to the Creator, the entire universe returns in a manner of speaking to the Creator. The ultimate realization and shaping of one's life to this goal is, according to Islam, the ultimate peace. So this is, although an extended excerpt, but the realization of where we fit into the entire universe, this realization will lead to the ultimate peace, that we are subjects of the one and true God, and that He is our Creator. Hazur continues and says, a phrase in the Holy Quran, oft repeated by Muslims, encompasses this philosophy in a few words. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. We belong to Allah, and to Him must we ultimately return. Few understand that here the meaning of return is not physical, but spiritual. And how often do we make this in our own lives, this mistake, that we think that this is physical and not spiritual? Zuhr says, few understand here that the meaning of return is not physical but spiritual. It is not just a statement of fact, but a reminder of the purpose of man's creation. Just as a salmon cannot find peace until it returns to its place of origin, its spawning ground, the salmon, which is a fish, the human heart cannot find peace without spirituality. The human heart cannot find peace without spiritually returning to its source of creation. So as we were saying, that just as a salmon cannot find peace until it returns to its spawning ground, likewise, humanity, cannot find peace without spiritually returning to the source of its creation. It says, this is the meaning of the verse, Allazina amanu wa tatma'innu qulubuhum bi zikrillah, ala bi zikrillahi tatma'innul qulub. That those who believe and whose hearts find peace in the remembrance of Allah, because it is only in the remembrance of Allah that hearts can find peace. Hazur says, without God, there can be no peace. Man cannot live at peace with himself, nor can peace be vouchsafed for society without this formula. So this concept or this philosophy, universal philosophy that Hazur just discussed, he says that without this, man cannot find peace with himself, individual peace, nor with society. And this is the only formula by which to find peace, that through God there can be no peace or harmony. Man cannot live at peace with himself, nor can peace be vouchsafed for society without this formula. No other formula can work. It is only the love of God which can bring about true respect for His creation. So without the love of God, it is hard to have love of humanity. The higher the order of creation, the nearer it becomes to the Creator, and the stronger the bond between the created and the Creator grows. Man begins to respect other men with a higher and nobler objective, and that is out of his respect and obligation owed to his Creator. So look how beautifully Hazur summed up this philosophy and brought it together with the concept of believing in God and having love for God. He says that man begins to respect mankind out of the obligation owed to his Creator. One can therefore say that in essence, it is the love of God which is transformed into the love for His creation. Hypothetically, remove God from the scenario for a while, and suddenly human relationships acquire a completely different perspective. The vacuum created by the non-existence of God is suddenly filled with man's ego. It is a very naive and extremely ignorant philosophy that man can live without God. What atheism ultimately achieves is not just the death of one God, but it suddenly brings to life a myriad of gods. Every conscious being that exists suddenly acquires a role of God unto himself or itself. Ego, selfishness, and total commitment to serve one's own ends grows stronger and powerful. And this is the source, as Hazur has discussed in his book, the source of many of the social problems and disharmony in society. Hazur continues and says, societies that are built with the bricks of such individuals always remain egotistic and self-oriented. There is no logic left in being beneficial to others without ulterior motives. There is no external reference point left in the form of a beneficent God who is the only binding and meeting point of all forms of creation. This is the ultimate Islamic philosophy. Without returning to God, one cannot attain peace, and without that peace, peace in society cannot be built. All human efforts to create peace from selfish ulterior motives are bound to fail and come to nothing. If there is no God, there is no peace, no harmony. This is the ultimate wisdom. The promised Messiah ﷺ has also spoken of this natural condition to search for an exalted being. And Hazur speaks of this. He says that in his book, The Philosophy of the Teachings of Islam, Hazur speaks of this, says, of the natural conditions of man is his search for an exalted being, towards whom he has an inherent attraction. This is manifested by an infant from the moment of its birth. As soon as it is born, it displays a spiritual characteristic that it inclines towards its mother and is inspired by love of her. As its faculties are developed and it nurtures, as its faculties are developed and its nature begins to display itself openly, This inherent quality is displayed more and more strongly. It finds no comfort anywhere except in the lap of its mother. If it is separated from her and finds itself a distance from her, it becomes bitter. Heaps of bounties fail to beguile it away from its mother, in whom all its joys is concentrated. It feels no joy apart from her. What then is the nature of attraction which an infant feels so strongly towards its mother? It is the attraction of the true Creator that the true Creator has implanted in the nature of man. The same attraction comes into play whenever a person feels love for another. It is a reflection of the attraction that is inherent in man's nature towards God, as if he is in search of something that he misses, the name of which he has forgotten, and which he seeks to find in one thing or another, which takes up its place from time to time. A person's love of wealth, or offspring, or wife, or his soul being attracted towards a musical voice are all indications of his search for a true beloved, as man cannot behold with his physical eyes the imperceptible being, who is like a latent quality of fire in everyone, but is hidden, nor can he discover him, meaning Allah, through mere exercises of imperfect reason. He is misled grievously in his search and mistakenly assigns his, meaning Allah's, positions to others. So finding Allah Ta'ala, one of the ways that can be done is through the teachings of the prophets and the guidance that they bring, specifically the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the guidance of the Holy Quran. Hazrat Masih Maud, the promised Messiah alayhi salam, has written, the purpose of the advent of prophets in this world and the grand objective of their teaching and preaching is that mankind should recognize God Almighty and should be delivered from the life which leads to hell and ruin, and which is known as a life of sin. In fact, this is the most important objective before them. Now that God Almighty has established a dispensation and has raised me with the same purpose which is common to all prophets, is also the purpose of my coming, namely that I wish not only to tell the world what God is, but I actually want them to see Him, meaning see God, and to show them the way of desisting from sin. Promised Messiah has written very beautifully in Urdu, and I'll translate this into English also. Hazrat Masih Maud alayhi salam फरमाते हैं, हमारा बहिश्त हमारा खुदा है, हमारी आला लज़ात हमारे खुदा में हैं, क्योंकि हमने उसको देखा और हर एक खूबसूरती उसमें पाई. ये दौलत लेने के लायक है अगरचे जान देने से मिले, और ये लाल ख़रीदने के लायक है अगरचे तमाम वजूद खोने से हासिल हो. ऐ महरूमों, इस चश्मे की तरफ दौड़ो कि वो तुम्हें सराब करेगा. ये ज़िंदगी का चश्मा है जो तुम्हें बचाएगा. मैं क्या करूं और किस तरह इस खुशखबरी को दिल में बिठाऊं? किस दफ़ से मैं बाज़ार में मुनादी करूं कि तुम्हारा ये खुदा है, ता लोग सुन लें, और किस दवा से मैं इलाज करूं ता सुनने के लिए लोगों के कान खुलें. अगर तुम खुदा के हो जाओगे तो यकीनन समझो कि खुदा तुम्हारा है. Our paradise which we are all in search for, this harmony that we speak of, our paradise is in our God. Our highest delight is in our God, for we have seen Him and have found every beauty in Him. This wealth is worth procuring, though one may have to lay down one's life to procure it. This ruby is worth purchasing, though one may have to lose oneself to acquire it. O ye who are bereft, run to this fountain, that it will save you. What may I do, and how may I instill this good news in the hearts? And by what drum shall I make this announcement, that this is your God, so that people might hear? What remedy may I apply to their ears, that they may listen? If you belong to Allah, rest assured that Allah indeed belongs to you. This is also the purpose of the Holy Quran. Huzur writes, the promised Messiah has written, we are witness and testify before the whole world that we have found in the Holy Quran the reality that leads to God. So this is the tool for finding God. We are a witness and testify before the whole world that we have found in the Holy Quran the reality that leads to God. We have heard the voice of God and have witnessed the signs of the mighty arm of Him who has revealed the Holy Quran. We believe that He is the true God and is master of the world. Our heart is filled with this certainty as oceans is filled with water. We therefore invite everyone to this faith and to this light, to the basis of enlightened perception. We have found the true light which dispels all darkness and which really renders the heart cold to all that is beside God. This is the only way by following which a person emerges from the grip of passion and darkness of ego as snake sloths off his skins. So this is with regards to the Holy Quran being that source of enlightenment that can bring us to God, the understanding, the recognition of who God is and what He desires us to be. And through that understanding, through that philosophy, we can bring about a harmony within ourselves, within the society around us, and the world at large. May Allah enable us to understand the Holy Quran and to put into practical application in our lives. Ameen.